Hi, everybody. We're going to talk about manifesting here on this little pop up on Wednesday night, the full moon night. And we'll get you out of here before dark so that you can go see the moon. I promise this is not going to be terribly long if you want to go see the full moon and it's clear where you are. But we had a couple of good questions in our Facebook group. And I tried to do a video earlier today and the video didn't work. And I thought, I'm just going to do what we do well. And this is just a little pop-up thing. So we'll talk about some manifesting techniques and hopefully help our friend and listener Teal out with her real estate deal. Happy full moon. If we take this to horary, it's a 7th house question, which is ruled by Libra. So we have a Libra full moon tonight. So how appropriate, right? See, it's already shining on us. So I'm glad you guys could make it. This is going to be fun, just very laid back, very chilled. And I have 3 good manifesting techniques that I thought I would share. And then we had another question about visualizing. So we'll talk about that as well. I do not believe you, dude. You are incredible. Now, I think what's the difference now with the time change? Is it like 11 o'clock there, Arnaldo? You are amazing. You are just a precious soul. I hope your plans arrange where you can be in Florida, because I'd love to see you. Would love, love, love to see you. All right, let's see here. So can you hear me okay? That's the first thing, because when I recorded this audio earlier, it was all garbled. So I just want to make sure if somebody would drop in. It's 1 a.m. Well, that's what I thought it would have been. Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? I guess you can because you answered my question. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Hey, this is great. Glad y'all are here. Okay, so I'll tell you, when I dedicated an hour of the middle part of my day to this, and then I played the audio back, and kind of like it, I had a moment. I had a Scorpio moment there for a second. Okay. Here's the deal. Teal Camaro had a question. And Teal, I don't know if you're on with us yet or not. But if not, there's a replay. So cool, right? And here was her, let's see, I'll read it off of here. Here was the gist of this. She said, here we go. I've been negotiating a commercial lease since last July. The landlord sent us a final version, but I'm uncomfortable with a few points and I want to revisit and ask again. And this was at the advice of her attorney as the conversation unfolded. They are powerful. I'm the little guy here. So with Mercury retrograde coming into the shadow and the energies of today, what affirmations or intentions can I write down to get them to budge? They already told me there's no more negotiating. In the follow-up conversations, this is it's a math learning center. So this is retail. And she said that everybody's excited about it. The landlord has done some things to be able to make the space available to them. They like her plan. Everything's checked out, except there are a couple of sticking points. And I said, what would be a deal breaker? And she said that one sticking point was that it's a 5-year lease with an option for 5 more. But if during the 5 there was a late payment, then the option for the next 5 is negated. So that was the one thing that she wanted at least to get them to change. They're not going to change it. So what this opened up for me and then some other people also asked about this as well. So there are some things that we can look at here, and I have three techniques that I wanted to share around how would we answer this. Now, there we are. Good. Teal's here. Okay. Perfect. Now I can't see your name, so you'll just have to maybe put TC dash or something in there, and then I'll know it's you. Okay, and that's no problem. All right. So the deal here, the first thing that I noticed is um, just see, Fred does a lot of his coaching by email, and this email coaching is highly effective because you really can, if you are transparent and honest in how you type the email and not trying to masquerade or hold back or anything, which I think this was totally authentic, then things come through. So when she says they're powerful, I'm the little guy, we got the astro energy going on. What can I do to get them to move? It's like, and she's been working on this since July. I'm sure that she is exhausted with this process and just wants to get it done so that she can open her business and get on with her life, right? I mean, you see all of that. And that's like with anything. So whenever we encounter a process of something that we want to manifest, one of the releases is that emotional attachment to anything. Now, there's a line here, and there's a fine line, and I get it, between being emotionless or being even ineffective. We're human. We have full on emotions. We put our heart into something, and we want that something to be successful. I've told you guys so much of this comes from my observing and emulating Fred Dodson over the years. And we have had amazing audiobook sales, especially for a couple of guys self-published. You know, he promotes to his audience, I promote to mine, and you guys buy those audiobooks, and I'm able to not have to go get a job. And I really appreciate that so much. You just don't know what that means to me. And I mean, that's a lot of audiobooks being sold every month, month after month after month. Fred doesn't get excited about. We have never done a campaign. We've never had a marketing meeting. We've never, I bought some Facebook ads 3 or 4 years ago and they didn't do anything. We haven't done it since. And I told him I was going to try it. So it all has come from energy. I can tell you, it's all come from energy. So this question is really about how to move energy in this situation. And that's any kind of situation. Like in the example, the video that I tried to shoot this afternoon, I said, if you go look at new cars this weekend, you know, we got the Easter weekend, right? Go look at some cars and try not to get emotionally attached. As soon as you sit in one, you know, oh, the leather smells so good. And it's like, oh, it's so clean. There's not a speck of dust on it anywhere. And it's like all brand new and there's no miles on it. And you go, oh, I've got to figure out how to get this car. Well, all of a sudden you're emotionally attached to that outcome. You work on a project for now 10 months. You're emotionally exhausted, wrapped up in that project. You've been through so much. And she said, this is the perfect spot. What I've observed from Fred is 3 things I wanted to share with you. So first of all, the desire and resistance scale that I talked about earlier. So this is, you envision a horizontal line, and let's put a midpoint in the line. We'll call that 0. Over here, we'll say this is desire, and we'll call that level 10 desire. And over here, we'll call level 10 resistance. Now, Zero's the midpoint. If you desire something a lot, a level 8 or level 10 desire, man, I got to have that car. Man, I got to have this space. I need these landlords to bend for this one little thing so that I can just sign this deal and get on with it. Big desire. 10. What do you guys think happens energetically when we desire something to that level, to that degree, where we are so consumed with its outcome? Energetically, what happens to that desire? It sprouts little bird wings and it flies off, doesn't it? That's the quickest way to push something away energetically. Now, a lot of people are very powerful in their personal power. Tony Robbins' Personal Power, remember one of his early books? You can desire and push and force that outcome. And especially if you're bigger or smarter than the management, the landlord company here, then you can force your way in and you can manipulate, you can pull some backroom strings because you know people. All of that is personal power, and you can do that, and you can move the thing. What she's asking is, how can I do this energetically? That's the lesson, right? What happens when you resist something to a level 10 resistance? You magnetize it and you bring it in. So that very thing that you don't want, you attract straight in. So it's a paradox. The whole thing is a paradox. The more we desire something, the more we push it off, and the more we resist something, the more we bring it in. In those years of when I started the podcast and for those next couple of years, I was so worn out with Dallas, Texas. There was nothing about that place that I wanted to continue living there. I was resisting. I was way out here. When I finally listened to this and got it, and I sat down with myself one day, and as honestly and squarely as I could, I said to myself, Dallas is your home. You've tried to leave here. It just hasn't worked. Your kids are here. You'll have to make adjustments, but this is where you're going to be. And I resolved, and I thought, well, if I need to move around the area somewhere, okay, I'll maybe relocate to a spot that's maybe a little bit more palatable, but this is it. I'm going to stay here. And you know that within 6 months at tops, I was skiing in Aspen, Colorado. And I had no intentions of that place, but it's just the release of that resistance. The door just fell wide open, basically. So what I've observed with Fred is that he doesn't get upset one way or the other. And he's positioned himself well to where he doesn't have to get upset or involved one way or the other. So that's the point of neutrality, is if you can bring that desire and resistance to, let's say, not zero, because we're not Spock on Star Trek. Yes, I think we can obtain the office space in an expeditious time period, Captain. You know, that's not, it's like we have emotions. And so if you can keep them, though, within about two desire, two resistance, that's the bandwidth where the universe can work. Now, that takes a lot of practice. I can say that I think for most things, I've gotten to a pretty good place on that. Stuff comes up all the time, and you find you catch yourself. But if you keep this little paradigm in mind, you'll always be able to at least consciously say, stop, bring this back in. Let me get neutral here. And that's just where you have to release. You just have to let it go. All right. Now, the second technique is the balancing the options exercise. This is where you look at extreme outcomes. So what is the worst possible thing that could happen here? And then you look at the opposite, the best possible thing that could happen here. And you kind of do the same thing. You're trying to bring the extreme emotions of both options in toward the middle where you're not bothered by the worst case and you're not overloaded or too excited about the positive case. You're just, look, the universe works in mysterious ways. So let's look at the dark side of this situation. I am not going to sign this lease if they have that clause. The landlord is not going to bend. I've been working on this for 6 months. I'm running out of money. I need to get this business launched. All of my team is, if I walk this deal, they're probably going to leave. They're going to be so frustrated. And the whole thing will fall apart. And that produces a really hollow, upset, tense, stressed feeling. What's the best scenario? Best scenario is we got on Facebook on Tuesday night and this thing just melted into my hands, and they called up the next day and they said, "Hey, you know what? We'll drop that clause. We want you as a tenant, 10 years, 5-year opt out if you want in the middle. You know, if times get rough and you can't make a payment, well, we're in for the long game." Wow. You feel great, you feel relieved, like, "What? Bring me a pen now," right? It's like, "Can I get this done?" So what you do then is you repeat the negative. This whole thing is going to fall apart. All of my friends, my employees, my partners in this venture, and my spouse are going to leave. Everybody's going to just do me in. And I don't have any income. I don't have a job. I've been putting my whole stake in this business. And then you go back to the positive side. And what you try to do is you just try to pull it in a little bit each time so that this is not as stingy and this is not as whoa, whoa, right? Okay, we got online, we did our thing. It's how we roll around here. And they just released their demands. Great. Let's get it done. Move on. And then over here, I'm willing to go to the mat. I'm not going to sign a bad contract. And my team values my wisdom of not putting us in a jeopardized position where we invest all this time and then we have to change locations in 5 years. I'm not going to do that. I'm in this for the long term. I know that this business will be successful. I know that I have good manifesting skills and I can make this work. So you get to where the worst option is not that bad. The best option is neutral. Okay. That's step number 2. And then the next one, I don't know if Fred calls these by the same name, but I just threw these down. The worst possible scenario. And then what? This was a fun game. And we did a podcast on this some years ago. It was about money. And he had me on a park bench feeding birds, with no clothes. I'm just sleeping under a blanket, all of this. And you laugh about it. But you think about what is the worst possible thing that could happen from this? Well, we don't sign the deal and I lose my business and I lose my friends. Okay. And then you play the game to yourself. And then what? Well, then I guess I will get thrown out of my house. I don't have any place to go. So I'll be, I don't know, have to find something, or maybe friends or family will pick me up. Okay. And then what? Well, I can't stay there forever. So at some point I'll have to find something else, but I don't have a job. Okay. And then what? Well, I guess if I don't have a job and a place to stay, that I'll be sleeping on a park bench out there with Thomas. Now you're kind of laughing, right? It's like, okay, but here we are we're feeding the birds and, out there freezing in the cold. Then what? Well, I'll probably get sick. Okay. And then what? Well, I'll probably die. Okay. Then what? Well, I've listened to Lives of the Soul, so I kind of know what happens. I'll actually get an energetic bump up, like it'll be better energy than leaving here. Okay, and then what? Well, I've read the book. I mean, I'll be reunited with my family and my soul team. Okay, and then what? Then, well, then I get to go to the soul spa and I get to rejuvenate from my time on earth. And you just get to that point where you're at this point, you're just like, okay, stop it, stop it. It just neutralizes. So all of these exercises are to just get this more neutralized. Okay. Now let me get caught up with some of your comments here. Yep. 10-0-10, the midpoint. And you're looking for, again, you're not looking for zero, right? I mean, we want that desire. That's what spawns the language that we're going to talk about here in a second. Yeah. See, and then exactly we get, okay, so is lease, and then Teal said the landlord wanted 10 years, but she negotiated 5 with the option. So that was a good give and take, right? The option is weak. Most are 10. Yeah, that's the deal. Hey, Melissa, good to see you. So, Teal, give me some feedback. Does that make sense? Now, and then I want to go to a couple of other points that I wrote down here. So those are the 3 techniques. All right. Now, and actually, this point right here is great because I put down in my notes, the biggest downfall is that we are too attached to the outcome. So the biggest manifesting downfall, my hubby is a Libra and he is totally not attached. Okay, well, good. Then you won't be out on a park bench if this falls through. That's good to know. That's good to know. Chances are we can salvage this whole situation. And it's a full moon, Libra moon tonight. So we're on a roll here. We got this. We got this. We're going to make this work. All right. Here was another thought that I put down is like, consider that this is the Matrix. Consider that this is all just a big facade, that they don't have any power over you. And, that your business is going to be fine because you're going to just create it and it's all a play. It's literally, we are actors. We're the Shakespearean actors. Consider it like that, because then it's like, wow, okay, then I can just be in the Matrix and I'm just not going to worry about it. Releasing again, getting toward the middle. All right. Now, this was the other thing I wanted to ask you. We talk about the blink a lot. Malcolm Gladwell's book called Blink. And the first chapter or first 2 chapters in there is about all you really need to read, because he tells you what the blink is. And he uses it, he sets it up as a story of some art. They're the managers of artwork in museums, and somebody's floating around a fake painting. I think that's basically what it is. And this one person smelled it out, where the whole committee at this museum was going to pay millions of dollars for this forgery. This one person had the blink that something's wrong. And Gladwell's point, and this is the whole thing about intuition, is that, so what I was going to ask you is, when you had contact with the very first contact with the management company, maybe not so much when you looked at the space, because obviously this is a cool space. It's in a neighborhood. It's perfect for the market and the business that you're trying to set up of math tutoring, math education. It's like everything is so great. And I'm sure that the space is a cool space. But the first time you met with the management company, what was your blink about the whole situation at that point? See, that's what I would want to know, because that's your answer. That blink is your answer. And a lot of times what happens is we don't follow our blink. Oh, I didn't the other day. I'm going to tell on myself. This doesn't happen often now. I really learned my lessons in Aspen. Those were sometimes some hard lessons, but I learned, dude, follow your intuitive prompts. It was almost like being called to. The other day I was trading, and there was a beautiful setup in the market right at the beginning of the trading day, and it went down. And those are the ones that I like to trade because, they say you take the stairs up and the elevator down. And it fell pretty quickly, and I had a really good trade on my hands. I mean, and it's like 9:34 or something. And I had this feeling it was a blink that it said, turn your computer off. I didn't. I didn't lose all of it, but I did lose maybe what, 40, 30, 35, 40% of it, 35%. And the lesson was the blink was there. The blink was there. So what I would say is, where were you with the blink? And I'm going to see if I can this or something better. Oh yeah, this is great. Yep. Okay, let's see. Hi, Carrie. Glad you're on. Good eye. Somebody said he seems very money-minded. I felt that too. It's like, this is going to be a little bit of a stiff relationship for sure. When I first met him, I presented to the neighborhood association and the landlord was there. I felt like he wants us. He hired a lawyer to present us. He hired engineers to build out the space for it. Wow. Seems like he got burned in the past. But what was your feeling? What was your blink feeling? And I'm thinking, like, blink feelings can come from, like, what I felt. I didn't have a voice that said, turn off your computer. I had a feeling. They often come that way. And sometimes it will be a lighter feeling, or sometimes it will be a heavier feeling. Human design people who are generators know that it's all about the sacral. You're supposed to grunt out loud. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Does that resonate? That never worked for me, but does that lift? Do you connect with that? Or you go, you're supposed to bring it right from down in the sacral area. Does that resonate? I don't know that works, but it doesn't work for me. But what does work is feeling for that emotion, and then feeling, you can just feel, am I lighter just by a tick, or am I heavier by a tick? It's subtle. Remember, like we talked about Sunday night, you form an energy ball. That's subtle if you hold energy between your hands. If somebody throws you a ball and you catch the ball, that's not subtle. Like, in fact, if it bounces off your chest or hits you in the chin, it hurts. It's very obvious. That's the difference. It's not, this is, okay, looky here. Okay. All right. There's your blink. Now, you have to reconcile that for yourself, Teal. But if that's what your first feeling was, I would grab, I know you want to resolve this, and I know you've got this week to work on it. I would grab the Kindle version of Blink, if you don't have it already, or if you've got the book, and read the first chapter. That's what I would do. So that's where you bring intuition in. Now, what I told her we would do, and I'll do this after we talk about the second part of this, which was the visualization question from April. We'll address that for a second. And then I told Teal that we would put some astrology up, and I am watching the time for those of you who want to go out and see the moon. But I think the moon will be up all night. So, okay, good. She has the book. Great. I would read that first part. And you get to the point in there where you have do you have Blank from Malcolm Gladwell? That's great, Kimberly. That's cool. Yeah, when you get out of the story of the museum, you've got it, and you'll see. I can't tell you how many stories I could add up of stories where I would argue with the Blink. That one that I've told on the podcast a bunch of times. I'd just gone to Aspen from Dallas. I'd lived in Dallas for 30 something years. I had a ski jacket. It wasn't a good one. I had gloves. They weren't the right kind. I didn't have a helmet. I thought I didn't need it. So I'm out here skiing in November. They have early skiing there, and it's not great, but it's okay. And I was going up the chair, and I wanted to take a picture. I was so excited. Oh, it was so beautiful, and it was just so exhilarating and everything. And just as I took my glove off under my arm, and I had unzipped the ski jacket, and there was a pocket in there with a zipper on it, and I was going to unzip and get my phone out with my bare hand, take a picture, and then put the phone back, zip it back up. And I heard, as I was going for that zipper, don't. I'm like, I've got this, no problem. So I unzipped it. I'll be really careful. And I grabbed my phone, and I remember clearly, I took a picture over here, and I took a picture over here, and I probably took a picture up here. And then I put the phone back in the pocket, and I zipped it up, and I zipped my jacket back up. And I was like, there, see, everything's fine. And then I went to put my glove back on. It was gone. And I'm looking, I'm in the chair by myself, and I'm looking around, and I'm going this way, and I'm going this way. And I hear these three guys behind me laughing. And they say, it's down by tower number, whatever, 12. And I had the pleasure of going to the top. Being without a glove was not a big deal. It wasn't that cold. But I got to ski down underneath that chair, which I was not an accomplished skier at that point. I mean, I could muffle my way down to where I needed to go, but then I had to go down, and Aspen is a really steep hill. And I had to take my skis off and slide down on my little butt down there to get the glove by chair number 12. And I was like, okay. But do you know that even with that experience, which ended up in the podcast, it was another year and a half of arguing with intuition and the Blink before I finally let go. And the last episode was kind of a doozy, and I was like, okay, that's it. I get it. This is my higher self telling me what to do. And there's one answer. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Father, Mother, God, whatever it is, right? That's it. So if you had a heaviness, all right, let's see here. Let me get caught up. If you had a heaviness, then I'm going to say, if you really square up, that's your Blink, then that's, yeah, we've kind of talked about that. Let's do it. We need to do that. Never seen snow. Wow. Oh my goodness sakes. Kimberly found an old copy in her grandma's garage and was felt called to read it. Well, it is your life guide. I'm telling you, it's a big, huge deal. Wow. Looking for the lost dog in the woods. Well, all right. So let's talk about the April's question on visualizing here. And then Teal will pull some chart stuff, okay, if you want to. So April then in our group this morning, this is why I wanted to do this, was because there were just these two similar great questions. So she was asking about, and I do want to come back. Actually, let's do this before we do this for Teal. So she was saying then, what affirmations might I use? Well, see, what I would do is I would back into it a different way. So what I would do is I would get clear on the intuition. And this is like the Intuitive Awareness Method is a little quick audiobook. and it's like 2 hours, and I talk slowly. So if you put it on 1.5, 1 3/4, or something like that, then you're done in a little over an hour, and you have this technique that you can certainly apply to this. So I would be doing this, and I would be doing the muscle testing. And when I'm doing the muscle testing and asking, I'm listening in here, which is where it shows up for me as the middle of the chest. It is the heart chakra. And some people get it down lower. Some people probably get it up higher. But wherever the message comes in your body, that's where you want to lean into. And so what I would do first is get my intuitive ground covered. Is this the right place for this business? Should I engage with this man and his company who's going to be my, in essence, I asked Robert about this today as we were recording something else. And I said, hey, something might come up tonight. So we talked about how the structure of the chart around this. And he was saying, it's like it is a seventh house question from the legal standpoint, but it's also a seventh house question because you and the landlord are now partners. And the seventh house is the house of partnerships. So it is a contractual partnership, but your partners. And by the way, I did mention this in the video this afternoon that failed, but I have a friend who's a physician in Dallas who had space in a commercial building. And the security guards in the building, he found out, were coming into his space and plopping down in the middle of the night, watching television. He had a sofa in there in the waiting room, and they were eating his snacks. He said they would come in the morning and like, what? We had more than this in here last night, this kind of thing. Well, he had $500,000 of allergy serum mixes in a refrigerator that was not locked. Should have been, but it wasn't. And he could not prove after the discovery of these guys being in there, evidently over a long period of time, that they had invaded that refrigerator at some point and compromised that medicine. So he threw it all out. And it cost him his business because that happened right at COVID. So he had to dispose of $500,000 worth of inventory. And, COVID hit. So he shut his clinic down and he walked the lease. Class A building in Dallas. Well, the management company sued him for the unpaid rent of $500,000. He turned around and sued the company that hired the guards, that they were vendors to the management company. He won that suit, but he lost the $500,000 suit to the building. The court or the negotiation held him responsible for that. So at the end of the day, he lost over here, got a little bit more over here, and netted out even because the legal fees were all covered within the settlements. So this is serious. Like you really are committing to something that is going to oblige you for a long time, but it's also going to give you the catalyst to do this business. So, so first thing I would do is just get really square on the intuition. And then from there, once you have the intuition, then what I would do is command. I love the commanding. Like you're standing in your authoritative ground as a co-creator with Source. So if you have it that this is, yes, proceed, yes, sign this lease, yes, do business with this man. If you have all of that double, triple, quadruple confirmed in many different ways, and I ask a lot. I tell the universe, I get really playful and I say, look, I'm a little dense and I'm going to ask you again, and then I'm going to go on a walk and I'm going to ask you again, and then I'm going to do some yoga and I'm going to ask you again, and then I'm probably going to do some journaling, and one of my journal questions will be that I'm going to ask you again, but just go with me because I don't want to mess it up. I got too many mess up stories. I want to get this one right. See, I just make it playful. I'm laughing as I'm even saying it, right? And I will. And I'll say, now look, okay, just one more time. I just want to get this right. Should I do this? Really, should I do this? This is so ominous. Should I do this? And if you get yeses, then you are standing on different ground than if you're going to go out there just randomly and say, this landlord surrenders to my one request by Friday, or whatever affirmation you come up with. You're standing on different ground. If you have it intuitively and internally, then you can say, in the name of the Most High, this lease option is removed. In the name of the Most High, and to my highest and best purpose with this business, to teach these kids math. And we need you for that, for sure. So thank you for serving in that way. This obstacle is removed from my path. Now, in the name of the Most High, I command this. I love that. You can also use Bob Proctor's. I am so happy and grateful now that one obstacle fell by the wayside. You could put in our group. In fact, I would encourage you that if you are clear on the intuitive part, you get clear there, read the first chapter of Blink and just know where you stand, because you're not going to, when you read the first chapter of Blink, you're not going to go to where you feel today. It was the very first, and he makes this very clear. It's the very first pulse before your brain had a chance to put a thought together about it. That's the blink. Somebody made a comment about blink makes them think of Genie. Blink like that. That's about it. Actually, blink, it's that first moment. Boom. That. Not, oh, wow, that guy's a little bit hard. You started to think about it. It's the blink. It's the feeling I had after that trade closed out. And I was like, wow, I did pretty good. Blink. We're at. But if you get clear on your blink, then come back and let's put another post in, and we'll get people in the group here to be standing with you for those affirmations that are according to the blink and your intuition. Okay? Deal? And we'll help with languaging, and we'll put our little team together, and we'll stand with you on this. Love to. Would love to do that. Okay? So you just get clear for yourself first, so that we're not trying to, because see, the thing is what if the universe is holding this up to save you massive headaches or a potential lawsuit? Would you be grateful for that? Does that help neutralize things like we were talking about? It's like, does that help bring it to the middle? Like, wow, this one little deal, if it's not solved by Friday, could keep me out of a lawsuit. And I would never know. But boy, would I appreciate not ever having to know. I don't want to go down that path. Because as people have pointed out, this guy seems kind of like heavy-handed. So what happens in the future? What other restrictions might come about? And I know, I get it. He has done a lot to make this business happen, and he wants you in there. I don't really understand why that shouldn't be that big of a deal. Everybody's looking out at the economy right now with their own interpretations of what might happen. I would look out there as a landlord of something that I've invested 10 months in as well and say, you know what? If you hit a rough month, we may all hit a rough month. Let's don't make that the stopping point of this deal. That to me would be a high consciousness response. But greed is a low conscious energy. So I don't know what's at play with him. I have no idea what's on his side. But, so does that mean, okay, sounds like that resonates. All right, let's talk about April's thing real quick, and then we'll do a little bit of astrology on this and kind of show you how that would fit in. And then we will go howl at the moon. Okay, so April said, when you're meditating and you're told to picture something in your mind, how do you see it? Do you see it as if you were living it, like walking through in the forest in first person? Or see it like you're watching a TV in your mind? She said, I'm having trouble getting my brain off of the TV mode. Okay, here was my thought on this. I see this a lot. There is no right answer. There is no formula. The thing about this process is it is us engaging again from our intuitive soul. But I know we like structure. It's part of our human nature. We're more comfortable with structure. And when we're learning something, it's just like riding a bicycle. And we have to have those steps, and we have to get those steps mastered before we can release thinking about the steps and it becomes subconscious. So, in that context, the answer is sure, it's all of the above that you can play with. What you're doing is you are literally creating this imagery. And some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic, or they're emotional, they're driven by their feeling emotions. And you wouldn't want to say, well, the proper way to do this is to play a television movie in your mind for 30 seconds and make it colorful, and then go back to NLP back in the 70s, right? And then make it black and white and run it backwards and scramble it and all that. It's like, no, you do what triggers you. What lifts you up? I do all of those, and I'm sure a lot of you do too, where you will, like, you could close your eyes, and the room or the environment that you're in, maybe some of you are in your car, you might be at home, you might be in a busy place, you might be in a not so crowded, not so busy place, it might be quiet where you are, it might be louder, but you could step into a reality that you create right there in your mind. I'm not going to suggest anything in particular. You create what comes to your mind, but just feel that scene of that desired outcome being in the room or the space that you're in, or as close to it as is realistic. And then you could see yourself actually doing that, as though you were a camera. Your mind is a camera looking at an image of you doing the activity, fulfilling the desire, receiving the gift. That's really relatively easy to do. And you can take it beyond the visual. You could hear the sounds of the environment that took place in. You could smell the room if it had smell associated with it. There are a lot of ways that you can connect to that scene, right? And those are all great. No right or wrong. Do exactly what feels best for you, but release it. Release the outcome. That's where we get too caught up in it. It's like, am I doing this right? Am I doing it for long enough? And there's no time in the energetic realm, so you don't have to worry about that. Another one that I do that I did put down is that I will script. So, like a journalist, let's say, or that you're a writer and you're on the scene and you're writing either a letter, you're doing a report to somebody, you're writing a news column that's going to be broadcast or printed in the publications, or a blog, or you're writing to a friend telling them what happened at this monumental event in your life. You can do it as though it had already happened. And that's a really good way to put you in the state of being in that space. But as we've said extensively, you do it from that neutral position. I just want to get this comment. You know, autistic people see this very easily as well. Um, I guess you guys have been catching each other up on this. I feel he wants money. He doesn't care about the center. Yeah, he's not going to have her passion for sure. Yeah. Um, okay. That's a good point, Teal. Thank you. Yeah. That 5-year cycle. So you don't want to be locked into a 10-year lease, in other words. I just wanted to see this whole time. Oh, golly. Okay. Um, all right. Now let's look at the astrology, and I'm going to turn my Wi-Fi off. I have my other internet plugged in. I'm seeing that we're having that problem that we had Sunday night, and I am so seeing, and yet my screen looks just as sharp and crisp and clear as a bell. And that was the problem that I had with the thing this afternoon. So that's so frustrating. Okay, I'm going to turn Wi-Fi off. It's probably going to dip to black for just a second, like it did Sunday night, and then release the outcome. And then we'll be back and we'll do a little astrology. So just hang on here while I do this, because it's going to be a lot easier to see the astrology chart if this picture is clear. All right, I'm going to turn it off right now. And I hope that we're still on. Okay. Now I'm going to share. Let's see how I'm going to do this. Okay. The blink is the first impression. See, the blink is ahead of all the actions. So this is a development, and this is where I'm saying is you have to get comfortable with your intuitive direction. You have to get comfortable inside with what drum you're beating to here. See, intuition will tell you what to do with this. Now we're going to look at the astrology, and we'll see what that does. But that's just I think a natural progression in the thing. Obviously, he's been working with you. That's a big positive. That's a big positive. I really don't see why he has drawn his line in the sand at this point. So let's do this. Teal, first of all, I wanted to ask your permission to would you want me to do a horary on this so I can put a chart up? And let me see if this shows up. Yeah, that shows up. This is not now. I set the chart to moved it back because I didn't want to be looking at the date. All right, she says yes, please. All right, so I've already talked to Robert. I know what houses we're looking at. We know what we're looking here. I'm so sorry that the images still appears to not be great, but we're going to cast the chart because you basically do that at the time that you know the houses that you're going to look in. And so the first thing we have to do here is to see if we have a readable chart. Can we ask horary this question? And we have the moon is not void of course. So that's okay. It is barely, we made it by just a degree and a half or so. If this had been at 15 degrees Libra, we would not have been able to read the chart. So we're good there. Saturn is not in the 7th house. We have a 16-degree ascendant, so that's okay. So we can answer this question. The tension is building. Oh, so here's what we have to do first. Hang on. Get off of that. Teal, we need to work out. I should have done this before. I'm sorry. We need to work out a yes/no answer, a yes/no question of what we're going to ask for the answer. All right. So we want this as close to yes or no as possible. I've put the chart down off of my screen, so I can't see it. I know none of you would remember what was going on there. So, and this is really Teal. This is your question. So you could start with, this is the question that you want to take to space-time to answer on your behalf. So I like what Carrie just dropped in there, but I want Teal to put this in her words. Should the lease be signed as it is? That's kind of the bottom line, and it is a bottom line question. So Teal, if you would, or you could say, is this, but make it mean what you want it to mean for you. Will signing this lease now as it is help or facilitate 5 successful years or more for this business? However you want to, phrase that in your own verbiage. Let her come up with that. All right. I like that question. Will signing the lease right now facilitate 5 successful years in business? Okay. Or as it is, right. So the intention is, as the lease is, without any further changes, we're just, the agreements have been hammered out, the brokers and the man and the landlord and his lawyers and everybody's been involved. Here we are. Yes or no? All right. Let's go back to the chart. So what we're talking about is a 1st house, 7th house question. Teal, you are the querent in this question. So you are the 1st house represented by Libra, which, by the way, of course, is our full moon tonight. And then the 7th house is the immediate answer to the question. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the rulers of the cusps of those 2 houses. Libra, of course, is Venus, and Aries is ruled by Mars, and we're going to see where they are in the chart, and then we're going to see if they make a Ptolemaic aspect by sign. They don't have to make an aspect by degree. They can make an aspect by sign, and that is sufficient for horary astrology. So we look first for Venus, and we find it in the 8th house in the sign of Taurus. Not too worried about the degrees. We can come back and look at that in a minute, but it's in Taurus. And then the ruler of the immediate answer to the question, Mars, is in Cancer in the 9th house. So we would say, do they form a Ptolemaic aspect? They are 2 signs apart. That's sign-based sextile. And conjunctions, sextiles, and trines are favorable. The answer is yes. So the answer to the question as presented from Horary, will signing the lease right now facilitate 5 successful years? The answer is yes. Now, I'm sure you are breathing a sigh of some kind of relief. I want you to still go back to the intuitive piece and catch us up to date tomorrow or whenever you do, but get square with that in your soul. I never rely on Horary only. However, what I do is if I'm going to bother to, before I ever cast a chart, I have made up my mind in advance that whatever that chart says, I will do. So it's not advice. It's not an opine. It's not weighing in on. If I'm going to cast the chart, I'm going to do what the chart says. And I've just learned to do that, and that the chart is amazingly accurate. So as we look at a couple of things here, let's think about, first of all, so Robert always says, read what you see. So those of you who are really good astrologers, jump in here with some comments for Teal. Read the chart now. What do you see related to her business and this decision about locating at this particular spot, signing this lease? We know the chart already says yes. That's not going to change. What else do we see? And I would say that we start to look at the 6th house. 6th house is work, but the 10th house, of course, would be the business. 10th house is in Cancer, ruled by the moon. The moon is right on the cusp of the 1st house. Oh, I like this. Feel the blink when the pen is about to touch the paper. That's great advice right there. Ooh, I love that. Love, love, love that. Yeah. If you're getting ready to sign that document and you get a no, don't do it, well, feel the blink. But I think you'll be okay. And probably, I'm guessing, when you saw the answer or heard the answer, that you were relieved. Was hearing the answer an up response to you, or was it a concerned response, Teal? What happens if I ask the landlord to add a note near the default clause, the option not to be unreasonably withheld? Will you be in person with this guy at that point? So the moon in Cancer, or the moon in Libra, let's see. No, it all goes through the broker. Okay. All right. So the moon, all right. So the moon is in the 12th house. It's 3 degrees away from the cusp of the 1st. You're thinking, oh my gosh, 12th house. 12th house is about institutions, right? Institutions. And really, it is more from a perspective of confinement, if you will. But here is a place where you're going to be going, where kids are going to be sitting with you under your tutorship and your team, your staff, and they're going to be learning math. So, and the Libra, and it's a full moon, and it's a very powerful full moon. And I like that symbolism that the moon is in this. So it's like, you think about the um, 12th house symbolism of endings, completions. It's like you're ending. I had to have a tutor get me through high school math. What you are doing is you are ending for people that struggle to get through math. Some people's brains, and especially perhaps when they're younger, you teachers could comment on this, are not geared to try to solve these math problems. Mine wasn't. Good Lord, I'm a Gemini rising with Mercury and Jupiter together in Sagittarius. I had no business in any math class. And what's funny is the guy that got me through was this old fashioned, he used a slide rule. He was on a ship in World War II, and he had the, what do you call them? The logarithmic tables memorized. This guy was amazing, and he got me through. He had a math brain. I always in business, and I mean, I've started several companies and all kinds of things. Math was never a problem in my career. It was just a problem getting out of school, you know? So you are ending that pain for these kids that need it so much. And of course, the business, here's the cool thing about Cancer ruling the business up there at the top of the 10th house is that this is so the business will be driven by your intuition. It's everything we've been talking about. Everything we've been talking about. Cancer, the moon, is your intuition. Okay, here's my example, not to draw from my own chart, but to say that Cancer rules my second house of money. And when I finally figured this out and realized that whenever I followed an intuitive prompt around money, like the prompt that said email Fred Dodson about narrating his audiobooks, whenever I did that, it always worked out beautifully. It worked out great. Whenever I tried to draft the business plan and it always struggled. So you here are being driven by intuition in this business. Always follow your heart. Oh, please listen to the intuitive awareness method. And if you don't have that, then go back. Fred has another book called Intuitive Training. Intuitive Training. Those two can really help. But the business needs to be driven by your emotions, by your intuition. All right. The ruler of the question, Mars, is in the house of learning, higher learning, actually. So that's a really good sign. And that's in Gemini. So you're going to help develop both sides of the brain. And it's going to be very powerful from a spiritual perspective. You're going to use this in your classroom the way that Melissa uses hers for spiritual, not only just purpose, but you're going to be powerful in this area. And the other thing is, with Mars sitting up there in the 9th in this area of higher learning, that it's time to get on with it. If you get the intuitive prompt, Cancer, and you're okay, and you do your work tonight and tomorrow, and it's all still there, and you're clear, and you've asked a bunch of times and all this, and that you've got it, then it's time to mash the gas. Get on the Mars energy, right? Move it. Go. As far as the work environment itself, I would look at the 6th house for that. It's Pisces. There's your spirituality again, with Neptune sitting right in there. So there could be some indecisions like this, Neptune, the fog. All right. But you're going to follow the intuitive prompts, and that's going to get you through. So then we flip over to the other side of the Neptune Pisces scenario there, and you're back to the spirituality of this business. This business is a mission and a ministry, if you will, as much as it is that you're going to charge monthly fees for tutoring and teach kids to, get them, be like Mr. Cubic was my guy's name. You're going to be their Mr. Cubic and get them out of school. So they get so it is going to be this spiritual ministry. And look, that little thing next to Neptune down I'm in the 6th house here. Let me see if I can get I can't get it from there because I'm not on the right thing. This little guy right here is the part of spirit. And the part of spirit is one of the Arabic lots, and it is that amplification of the spirit within. And okay, she says she asked the universe for her purpose in the height of the pandemic, and this is coming through. So this is a lot of spirituality in this chart, and it's going to radiate. This is going to be you. This is going to be something that is going to fulfill your purpose. It is going to be who you are. The partnership is going to look here. The partnerships involved in this are going to be successful. There's the part of fortune sitting 2 degrees away from Jupiter. And it is about learning, partnership of learning, Mercury. So the chart, I think, reads really well for what you're trying to do. So the answer, let me see here. Her North Node is in her 5th house. Okay. Yeah, Saturn's in the 5th house. That is also the other area of learning is 5th, education, the verb, if you will, education is in the 5th. So Saturn in the 5th in Pisces, especially with Pisces ruling the 6th of, that's the job. That's the place you go during the week. You unlock the doors. We're open for business. Saturn, you're going to be there for a long time. This is going to last. Saturn in the 5th. Your teaching is going to last. The chart is reflecting longevity in the area of education. So I think you're in good shape with that. All right. This has been fun. I hope it's been helpful for you guys. So if you get any insights from Blink and from checking with intuition, keep us posted for sure. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, significant because of the 3-degree separation of the moon and rising cardinal signs. Ooh, yeah, I like that too. What Kristen is talking about is with the moon as the ruler of this 10th house, sitting 3 degrees away from the ascendant, which is in a cardinal sign, makes 3 something significant. 3 days, maybe to get this thing signed, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. You'll have to figure out the timing on that. But yeah, I would agree. And the other thing is too, that another little piece of timing that you might consider would be 18, because that's the difference if Mars at 5 degrees moved to Venus at 23 degrees. That's 18 degrees that it has to move. The minutes are very close, so just say round number 18. So you might keep 18 in mind as far as timing as well. Thank you, Kristen. Good point. Pick up that timing part. All right, you guys, this has been fun. Thank you. And we killed the rest of daylight, at least in the Eastern time zone. So go out and enjoy the moon. Thank you. This has been fun. And thank you guys for great questions too. And maybe we'll do more of this as they come up in the group, especially when they relate to something that will, maybe you guys connect on the side too. So thank you guys. I love you too. And thank you for sharing the evening with us, and happy full moon. See you soon.